Hello there, Dan the Weatherman here. Hey, welcome to my weather show. This is the global edition. We take a look at things going on across the globe, and this week, big week because now La Nina has entered the building. It has been officially declared, it is going on, and then you go, everyone talks about it. What is La Nina? Well, it all starts, is pretty much, in a nutshell, it is interactions between the ocean and the atmosphere in the Pacific Ocean, but that can affect the weather in other parts of the globe. La Nina, big blob. These are sea temperatures, blue, cooler than normal, yellow and orange and red, much warmer. And it's when you're getting the upwelling across eastern parts of the Pacific, you're getting more. So it's cooler waters, and that spreads its way west across equatorial regions. And where you've got cool, you have downward motion, high pressure. The cloud doesn't bubble up where you've got the warm, juicy air across many western areas. And that affects the weather systems. Where you get more red, you start to see more in the way of weather systems, more oomph in the atmosphere, and that's what we've been seeing. More rain for places like Indonesia, perhaps all the way Papua New Guinea, eastern Australia, northern New Zealand, whereas drier eastern areas and to the southwestern parts of the US. But with global warming, it may be twisted a little bit as well, as we've already seen. For instance, more juice into the seas, more juice into the atmosphere. That makes these weather systems have a bit more oomph, like we've seen in that blob there over the North Pacific. That is literally a fuel zone, as is the case for this one here. And you check out that section there, eastern parts of the Atlantic. We've seen it already. There will be more to come this week. Check this out. This is looking at the northern hemisphere, and this is temperature, that purple stuff. You see the temperature minus 30, minus 40. But even in this time, last couple of weeks, what is called the polar vortex has been a bit of a wiggly state. Look at that surge of blue. That's some warm air going through the polar vortex like a big solid lump of jelly on a plate. But sometimes it just gets a bit wiggly, flobbly. And that's what's happened. So you get what's called sometimes cross-polar flow. See that surge of blue? And there's a little bit of a pincer effect there. It will more or less sit there, but notice the surges of blue, surges of green, ups and downs, warms and colds. But I've mentioned that zone of pretty active weather there. You can see the greens going through. That will continue to generate some pretty nasty weather. Notice how we get those surges going through. Very warm air again, tracking from the warm seas of the Atlantic right the way north. Well to the north, literally into parts of the Arctic. The jet stream over the last week or so was very wiggly. We had those surges of warm air go through. This week it gets a bit quieter, a bit flatter. So all these ups and downs that brought, for instance, all the snow to parts of, say, Western Europe, the cool spots we've seen over parts of North America, those will ease down a little bit, but instead with a more of a flat, more of a straight line jet stream, that's going to bring more oomph to the weather systems, more wind. So we'll see where you see these red blobs here surging across, strong to severe gales, battering western parts of, say, Europe, barreling into, say, the Aleutian Islands, into western parts of Canada. At the same time, further south, things are really up and down too. Significant rain we've seen once again in the warm, juicy Tasman Sea, western New Zealand, and pretty active stuff too for parts of South Africa there with some pretty stormy weather. Surge of cold, been very cold across Alaska. Watch what happens over the course of the week. That zone of cold does shift away because of our jet stream kicking south. So you see the blue and of course the red there across parts of North America. Temperatures some 20, 30 degrees warmer. Look at the blue, like a surge of blue jelly just oozing its way down. Same sort of thing across parts of Europe, but in this case it's a surge of red with the stuff coming across the Atlantic. And by the time we finish, notice the warmer than normal air up into the Arctic because of that wiggly jet stream, but surges of cool coming into the mix as well. Let's get to North America. So we have seen some snow over the Great Lakes. Look at that storm system there, really cranking in. Now remember here, we're going from pretty mild over the western US to all of a sudden Mother Nature opening the floodgates and boom, down it comes. So that's a cold surge. Rain, snow line about that blue line there. So that's some cooler weather trucking its way through to the northeast. Another system there, that will be working its way in as we go through the course of the later parts of the week and barreling in yet further wet weather into western parts of the North America. And look at that thing wind up. I mentioned the wind. That's going to barrel in there to across the Maritimes of Canada, and there'll be more wind too into parts of parts of Western Europe. Very unsettled across some parts of the Mediterranean. Big Scandinavian high keeps things chilled out. Look at this thing winding. Strong to severe gales. Britain, look at that thing deep in. Last week, the air was coming from this way. This week, it's that way. So not as cold, but it's blustery. And that's how you finish the week. Wet and windy into western areas as well. Slightly different story in that warm, juicy sea down under. Australia, very, very warm over the week. Could be seeing 40 degrees, close to, say, Western Australia, Perth. All this juicy air creates the cloud, brings it to life. You put a big block in the way, like a big stone in a river, that causes all the wet weather to sit and focus in one particular place. But at the same time, cyclone season. Tropical cyclones could see the first one of the season for the Southwest Pacific. Low-level streamlines or winds in the lower levels of the atmosphere, when they come together like that and that, you get a formation region or potential for east of Papua New Guinea near the Solomon Islands later this week. Good outflow means with warm seas, could be something forming there. Put your eyes on the blobs there. Wet weather continues to pile into parts of New Zealand. The warmth with the flow from the Northern Territory for parts of Australia gives them 40 degrees well into the 40s. And look at this, as we run through the course of the week, winds coming together, could be that first cyclone forming there east of the Solomons, perhaps, maybe tracking its way south and east. Where it goes, probably staying north of New Zealand, but it does show we're getting to that time of year where the tropics really come to life further south. That's the weather for now.